Welcome to another edition of the Wrestling Roundtable. I'm your host, Eric Santa Maria, and joining the panel tonight, to my left, which is your right, in the Lindsay Lohan haircut, is Lawrence Haber. To my right, which is your left times two, is Brett Simonello and Rodney LeConte. And since we did our last show, we were talking about John Cena's return, and we all, just like everyone else in the wrestling community, looked like complete fools because we got this false information about him doing a movie and coming back maybe after a special referee spot at WrestleMania, and then boom, his torn tit isn't as bad as it seems. He's been doing a lot of rehab, a lot of steroids, and there he is. Big surprise at the Royal Rumble.
That's how wrestling should be.
Right. It was almost like hearkening back to a day when you and I and you were, before we ever heard of the word dirt sheet or the word internet, and we were watching WrestleMania 8, and here's the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh.
It was that sort of out of nowhere surprise.
Yeah.
Genuine surprise.
Do you think it's better off that we don't know that sort of stuff?
Of course. I mean, that's what makes for great television.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't want to watch the season finale of every show and know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think with wrestling, they've capitalized it and even built towards surprises. I mean, just think if no one really knew if Jericho was coming back, how much of a surprise it would have been.
Wow. I think we all knew by the time it happened.
Exactly, but if we didn't,
Mm-hmm.
Ignorance
I think it
bliss.
would have been.
Well, speaking of ignorance, that brings me to the Royal Rumble. Because you went to the Royal Rumble, we all saw the Royal Rumble, we were watching it at Hooters at any rate.
Yeah.
And when I'm talking about ignorance in the Royal Rumble, I think the first thing that comes to mind is the world title match with Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy. Did they kill Jeff Hardy or what?
Yep. Boom. You get one shot sometimes.
I want to say no. If you heard the reaction that he got on Raw, it didn't kill him because he's still one of the.
Okay. So take that Raw reaction and like quadruple it had he won the belt.
Yeah.
What difference does it make that he was the biggest selling merchandise guy on the shop zone for a month? He was the most over guy they had since Cena left, and they still chose not
They
to go.
still chose not to. I mean, it was funny in a way because remember me and you got up and.
My stomach hurt. I was laughing.
Sarcastically.
It was
Well, I'm laughing because it's the stupid thing to do.
It was a stupid thing to do,
thing to do.
especially clean like that. At least with Mysterio losing, there was some sort of outside interference. But
What was it like in the arena? Did like the wind get knocked out of everybody?
Over the summer, Orton versus Cena, the whole crowd, same crowd, New York and Jersey, were backing Orton 110%. The Orton and Hardy match, everybody was for Hardy. It was a complete turnaround.
Right.
And both times they didn't deliver on either
Yeah,
one.
I mean,
Yeah.
Two times the whole place walks away, a little.
So does it matter if they're cheering him on Raw if they don't?
Oh, no, they cheered the stupidest things. I mean, but there's a difference between a cheer.
But that was actually, they were
But they-
pulling
being
out.
over,
He
and then
was
cheer,
over.
and then being like the top star or whatever. Because if you think
He's
about
not
it,
the
they
chosen one,
built
though.
him up
He's not.
so.
They didn't even
well,
give you a
but-
match.
but-
They
yeah,
thought
but
he
the-
might
But
win.
they, again, as they always do, they accidentally stepped into shit and they got this guy over and positioned him to win the belt. They did everything right. They kept the momentum going his way. They broke all their
He looked
trends.
strong.
He had that huge
Even if he
spot
lost the
2
match
months in a
next night on
row
Raw,
off the
that
cage.
one night would
He
have
had
been
the thing
great.
obviously off the cage.
the one that would have been great.
Especially in
But
LSG.
do you think they're
You know,
waiting?
you can't take it off.
Are they waiting? All right, let me ask you this:
Can't
are
take
they
it off.
waiting to give him the belt so he could have a decent run? Because you knew, even when he beat Triple
Who-
H,
what, dude?
even when he
What's
beat
better?
Triple H,
What's better, a decent run or a huge new star that you can market? There've been a lot of
What's
guys
the
with
point
a
of-
decent run. Benoit had a decent run. Eddie had a decent, not even.
yeah, but you know what? What's the point
But then
of
they were
giving the
done.
belt at the Rumble if he's going to lose it less than a month later?
So why does he have to lose it?
It would have. I think.
My point is they could have made a new star and ran with
It's a
it.
lesser of two evils. It's either.
Why do they have to
kill
do
now
evil?
or kill-
Why do they have? What, they must do evil?
Of course.
The evil empire.
Unlike
What is it?
UFC,
We want evil. WWE.
unlike borrowing
That was
some
funny.
outside factors,
Terrible.
unlike UFC, they don't have to deal with evil. That's the whole thing about it. They set up situations to be good, but they don't.
Well,
They don't.
because they've got the
Exactly.
strategy and they feel they can't break.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And thank God, hopefully John Cena still fits in that, and that's why they
Oh,
did.
John.
They ran with
They
it the other night.
they still work around John Cena.
The book is a bunch of old men.
Until Triple H decides
They're
this
sitting
time
there
it's him again.
well,
and
we'll get to
we
that.
all, you know, I'm
But
sure
how
we
much
will.
time do you think, you're talking about a title reign down the line, how much time do you think they have left with this guy?
Oh yeah, he
They
falls
still.
away
I
right
mean, you
quick.
know what? It really is. Again, what they do with him between now and the end of the year.
But people were expecting him to win the belt like 6 years ago coming up in that ladder match with Undertaker.
Really?
Yeah, they were.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right.
Really?
Yeah, they
Oh, I thought
were.
you meant just about
I
the
didn't buy
fact
it
that
for a second.
the guy's a ticket time. Are you kidding me? I thought he was
didn't
going to
buy
win the belt that
it.
night.
You didn't
buy
think
it.
that it was a possibility he could have won it?
The
Against
fans
Undertaker?
did.
I didn't think he was going
I
to.
know there was a
I
good,
know that match made you believe that he was going to win it more than the Orton match
there was a
did.
good amount of
Yeah.
fight.
I mean, Orton just he
I
destroyed
mean,
him.
now
You
the
know?
way you saw it in the arena, like
it
I
was
said,
boring. It was the most boring match of the night, and it shouldn't have been. It shouldn't have been at all.
but the way
Because
they,
he knew, I think his heart wasn't in it.
the way they
Fuck
did
it.
it though, it was just like, boom, he's nothing.
Yeah.
Because if you remember when Orton beat He Who We Do Not Speak Of at SummerSlam, it was one RKO, that's it, he's dead. Didn't even get a kick out, nothing. With Hardy, you saw he hit it out of nowhere
Yeah.
and beat him. That's it.
Yeah.
They didn't book him strong.
Even
They
It's
didn't
like
book
he
him
gets
strong.
to the big spot, he just like whimpers.
They booked him
He
right
whimpers
up
out.
until the Royal Rumble, and like it was a mistake, you know, because in me personally, I would have put the belt on him. I would have ran with him.
Well,
I
people
would have had him, you know.
People who want to make money, which should be the WWF's top priority, would. But WWF has pride and stupid ego above money
Well,
and
because
priority.
Orton's their guy, and Cena's their guy,
No,
and Triple H
yeah.
is married to the girl.
It's the bubble.
So
It's the bubble, and you know
I don't know
they
if they
think that's
showed
not
it
the
on
bubble.
TV, but after Hardy got up, you know, from the ring and walked back, you got a standing ovation from the crowd.
Yeah, but what difference does it make?
the
He's
Garden,
lost.
the Garden knows. Yeah, they.
It's the same thing with, you know, Benoit Angle. You knew Angle was gonna win, but there was a
Oh, it's
few
different.
minutes where you thought,
And then Benoit.
Dude, everyone was talking all week like, yo, they're gonna put the belt on Hardy, right? They've managed to get it to this point. They might as well go all the way. You can't be that stupid. You can't be that fucking stupid.
yeah, they can.
For Randy
yeah.
Orton.
And they will, and they'll
they
do it
can,
again.
and they'll do exactly.
We'll
they'll do it
see
again
how
and
far
again.
respect pops go. Because
And-
after Benoit got that respect pop, he was in a mid-card nothing tag
Yeah,
match. at
right,
WrestleMania.
right.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
after
oh,
Hardy
of
beat the
course.
Chambers, it's
He wasn't doing
Right,
anything
but-
until
It's
That's-
okay in a way because they knew Cena was coming back and they knew that
That's
that's
how they made up
going to
for
be
it.
buttered for the future.
they're
However,
just going.
they
back
can
to
have it
top.
both ways.
Exactly.
They can have it both ways.
So if Cena doesn't come back that night, if he really did have that injury,
It's the biggest fuck
does
up
Hardy
ever.
go over?
Oh, he better fucking go over.
I think he should have gone over
Yeah.
regardless.
He's setting up
But
Orton
like you
Triple H
said, they didn't because you got Cena and
with the
Well, that's no excuse to do
Yeah.
it, though.
That's theirs.
Cena's coming back, so we have Jeff Hardy lose?
we don't need you to be good anymore.
That's their
Go ahead,
logic.
Thank you.
Well, you
now
know
go
what
back.
they think in their mind. Hey, you know what? People want to see Cena get his revenge on Orton, and you know.
You can still have both ways though.
They
You
could've-
can always have it both ways.
in their mind, I think that they would rather see Cena and Orton.
Well, of course, leading up to WrestleMania, I assume we're going to be getting Triple H Cena too. Now, why couldn't we have gotten Hardy Cena? One. I mean, both guys are extremely over. It's a match that hasn't happened yet.
Plus, one of the reasons their logic would
People
be
have been behind
their
Hardy
logic would
even
be
more, I
that
think.
their logic would be, well, if there's no Triple H in there or Orton or a huge heel, huge baby face or whatever, that maybe having these two baby faces, one that's not really a main eventer in their mind, is not a WrestleMania main event. But then again, you realize how much merchandise Cena and Hardy sell and how the little kids love them. It would be kind of a Hogan Warrior type thing for this generation in a
We
way.
dropped the ball with that. They had it. If they would have
But why
hyped
the
up
fuck not?
Hardy's IC title, and then
We don't know why.
well,
Because Triple H, because he's got to be in there in some capacity.
their mind, they
even though
think-
he's what do you call it? Synthetically over. He's not really over. When those two guys are out there, they're really over. The people actually have a passionate response to Hardy.
Yeah,
Well, I
and-
think our time for this segment's almost over, so we're going to be talking more about the Royal Rumble when we come back, and hopefully Triple H doesn't take over this show too. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the Wrestling Roundtable, and someone who came back on Sunday was John Cena. We were all wondering when he was going to come back, and out of nowhere, there he is. What was it like in the arena?
It was absolute mayhem, followed by, oh wait, I'm supposed to boo this guy.
It's funny you say that because it was exactly the same in Hooters.
Yeah, it was.
Everyone was like, "Yeah, main eventer." Wait a minute, we're supposed to boo this guy because it's boo, boo,
Cena
boo.
sucks.
So they dropped their curtain, their veil for a little bit. Like, yeah, he's over. Wait a minute, boo.
And we're right back to the boo, yeah, boo, yeah.
It's funny that those two ended up there because we were so worried, like, yeah, Triple H is gonna win.
I think I knew that going into the Rumble.
Everybody thought it was going to be
Until
Triple
number
H.
30
Until.
came out.
Yes.
And then I was like, wait a minute. Because, Batista's still in, but you didn't think Batista was going to win the Rumble. Shawn was out. Taker was out. what did Triple H come in at? Number 28 or 29? Yeah, something ridiculous. And you're like, all right.
I'm laughing.
Totally unexpected.
I'm laughing because, okay, when the Cena came back, they had Triple H kind of clear, he like pedigreed Umaga, and then it was him in the middle. Then Cena's music hits, and the initial reaction from people was, "Oh, Cena," but then it was also like, "Oh, Cena's gonna throw out that jerk off that nobody really wants to see."
Yeah.
It's like they kind of know. They didn't do it with Batista. They didn't do it with Umaga. They did it with the guy that everybody knows. Now their argument would be, well, because people want to see Cena Triple H. Bull fucking shit. They did that because it kind of guarantees the heat.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I mean,
They know in their hearts that people really don't give a fuck about Triple H when this guy's DX shirt on. And
You don't know that.
I think there's. I don't
think they know that.
I think there's a significant portion of the fans who did want to see Cena lose.
They want to see him lose, but I think they're still more interested in him than they am Triple H.
Well, they certainly are.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they wanted consciously to see him.
Oh, that's not my point. Because to me, it's not about who won and lost the Rumble. It's about the reactions. And the reaction there was they were playing off the smart mark notion of we all know Triple H is going to win. And then Triple H had the look on his face like, oh, fuck, no, this fucks it up.
This guy.
And if he was a heel, it would have been even more like, I don't think the people would have booed Cena at that point. Because it's hard to really justify it.
Speaking of crowd reactions, I called
Right.
you in the middle of the intros to Edge and Mysterio, and I said, "What the hell are you guys doing?"
It was weird.
It was
Yeah.
Wow.
It was really, Edge was so over, and it could be that Mysterio hasn't been booked, the best since he came back.
Doesn't matter.
But I think it's a big part of it is just New York City. We like bad
We like
guys.
the bad guys,
I think
yeah.
that's really what it comes down
And
to.
Mysterio's become like the kid
He
guy
is.
on the
Yeah, but it wasn't really like that with Hardy and Orton.
Mysterio's a lot more catered to kids than
Yeah.
Hardy is.
And Edge is just
I mean-
has that,
He's
Well,
Canadian.
Edge is like the in guy to like for
He
the
is. For the
smart
internet,
kids,
like,
Yeah.
oh, he's a good
Oh,
he's
such
got
a great
like,
worker.
He does a spear.
Sex and
Right.
violence
Yeah.
and all that.
Crude,
crap.
lewd, and tattoos.
But Mysterio's still a good worker. I don't know. I don't know why he
Mysterio's a
got
good
that
worker,
much
yeah.
heel heat. A little now and then, but I don't know.
Do you guys think it was a mistake not bringing back Big Show?
No.
Why not have Hardy beat? If Hardy beats Orton and Big Show wins in the Rumble, throws out Triple H, you've got so many more interesting options for WrestleMania. Then you bring Cena back on top of that. You got a loaded fucking show with new characters. I'm sorry, but no matter what anyone says about this fucking Cena Triple H match, it's a retread.
Well, of course.
And it's a retread of something that wasn't
I
that
don't want to
interesting
see
in
it.
the first
I would
place.
much rather see Cena.
Especially because we
Hardy.
know what the outcome's going to be this time. It's the stupid outcome.
He owes
It's
him
done. He
owes
lost.
Triple H.
Go away.
But do you think-
he owes him a 3 count?
Yeah.
That's really what it comes.
Do you think that people would really buy the Big Show because
Why not?
I mean, they made him strong, as an ECW champion, but that was the most consistent thing they've done with him since they brought him in.
I don't think they should have brought him back for the simple reason of business. If you already had Cena coming back, why not save Big Show for No Way Out and
Because
get...
nobody gives a fuck about No Way Out.
But
you bring it back to the Garden.
Exactly, you don't care about it, but then
They'd
you don't
rather
get
see Cena.
people interested in buying pay-per-views.
And you know
It'll
New
get
York
you
would pop for him.
interested in watching Raw.
Of course New York
for
would
the
pop.
fact of we didn't know Cena was coming back. If they don't announce when Big Show's coming back,
First
it's
of all,
gonna be
I think
good.
the smart
First of all,
move
the
would have had
Rumble-
their top
the
star
Ru- as
turn
far
over
as
Big Show.
the title match goes, the Rumble is irrelevant because it's all about what they're going to do at the No Way Out show or on Raw because of the 3 belts.
Yeah,
2 belts.
99% of the time the champion.
So you could have Big Show win the Rumble and have it have absolutely nothing to do with the WrestleMania main event. You could have it perceived as that, which is what they do. They pretend like it's gonna be Orton versus Cena in Mania. Then they go the next night. They change it right away. They always change it the next fucking night on Raw, what the Rumble outcome. So why can't Big Show come in and win the Rumble? And
Not necessarily.
Elevate.
Not necessarily.
Do you think a lot of these guys, like Flair, Snuka, Piper, who all wrestled on Sunday, you think it's getting a little too much? Like, aren't these guys getting a little too old?
And
for
now
this?
When I saw Piper come in and take his shirt off,
It was exciting.
I think my wings were
to
about
see
to
them.
come up.
It was exciting to hear the music for 2 seconds, but then
Yeah.
when you looked at them, you're like, they looked like they crawled out from under a grave.
yeah, you don't want to see him.
Yeah, there's really.
I love Flair, I love Piper, all that they're great.
It's
that's
time
that's
to
not in
move on.
dispute, but it's starting to
It
get
is,
embarrassing.
They lasted longer in the Rumble than Shelton fucking Benjamin.
That
That
was
Porsche,
really
that's pretty
disappointing.
That was. Remember how
That's
upset
fine.
we were? I wanted
I
to
wasn't
leave.
surprised though.
I
not
want-
surprised.
I mean, they're always going to milk the nostalgia thing now that they own everything and they've got the channel to pimp and the
How much
Every
life
year
does
we
that
have to
But
get
you
our,
can't, yeah, I mean,
our
it's-
one, at least one old guy.
It's
coming
cute,
back.
but you can't do it every show. If you're
I
going to
see,
do it
yeah,
at
it's
WrestleMania every
Goldust
year
or somebody
during
else.
the Hall of Fame thing, it's okay, it makes sense. But just to do it in the middle of Rumble, it's like, why?
I mean, they want.
It's a waste of a
be
spot,
Cute. They wanted to
really.
be cute in the garden. I think that's what it was. They wanted to be cute in the garden.
Yeah, because why not just have a good fucking pay-per-view?
I think they're trying to be too cute now, because when I found out that they're not only doing Orton Cena now at No Way Out, we expected the Elimination Chamber. 2?
Yeah,
It's
two.
it's overkill.
that is.
And you know what's great? The Elimination Chamber is like a singular concept. The Elimination Chamber, the one that you can't have two of
Yeah,
that
in
entire
one
show.
show.
That's like
That's
the War
right.
Games is. It's worse than having
We
two
can have
Hell
three
in a
of them.
Cell.
Yeah. What would be the point,
Nuts.
It would be very Vince Russo.
Isn't it way too much to have 3 pay-per-views in a row go Royal Rumble, 2 Chambers, Money in the Bank? What the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
Gimmick.
It certainly says
Yeah.
a lot about the ECW title when they're not
They don't
winning
even
the
get a
Chamber.
Well, it says a lot about it when they're champions in the Royal Rumble.
Right.
Exactly. What is
So
that?
Chavo should have wanted to challenge himself.
I'm taking the night off. See ya.
Taking the night off.
So
How about Michael Buffer at the Rumble?
yeah, it was
I
really
think that-
weird. It was really weird hearing him announce a WWE
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
But
it
he was also on Raw over the summer. He was at the Garden.
Was
for
he?
the Matt Hardy, Larry Holyfield phenomenon.
Really?
I
I missed that.
That I got to pay money to see.
Oh, okay.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Vince.
it's-
Well, the Vander Holyfield thing, that's half boxing
Mhm.
or whatever. But I mean, it sounded like you were expecting DDP and Goldberg in the main event.
Exactly. Especially, how much they rip on him,
Mhm.
ever since '98. But I think it was a nice touch. I think they always, it was a move that should have been done, because I don't know, I'm a big fan.
It's
of
the
Michael
Garden.
Buffer. And for the Royal
Brett
Rumble.
Clark.
Speaking of a
And
move,
for the Royal Rumble.
speaking of a
Clark
move
and-
that should have been done, it should have been Brock getting out of that heel hook, and I want to mention that real quick since we did touch on
It's not as
UFC a
easy as
little
it
bit.
looks.
What did you guys think about Brock's first fight?
That's the badass over here.
Why are you hanging out with us, Rod?
In
your house.
Let's slip here. But no, Brock was very impressive as showed that he belongs in MMA. He was winning the first minute 29 seconds of that fight, but you know what? Like you said, he got caught. I've been caught in that full lock. As a wrestler, you really don't see it because it just comes out of nowhere. Literally.
But I gotta
But-
say, man, the potential is there.
He
That's what
looked
Ellis
very
looked
Because he looked dominant
Looks
regardless.
He was dominant.
He's been kind of embraced in the MMA
He's gotta learn the
community
rules.
since then.
He's gotta
So
learn
looks like we're on a good track with Brock. He's going to be something someday. And
I
hopefully,
hope so.
Hopefully they'll get a win there.
These guys
You
wait their whole.
could see him be champion. within
They
the
wait
next
their
year.
whole lives. They fight, and they still don't win UFC. He's had 2 matches in MMA. One of them he just decimated the guy. The other one he looked great against a former
the
champion.
former
So
champion.
watch out.
One of the best, probably after
You fucking
Nogueira,
MMA
one
marks.
of the best jiu-jitsu heavyweights in that division.
Well, hopefully you'll stick around with us. We're going to be talking about the big 3 when we come back from our break. So stay tuned. More Wrestling Roundtable coming up. Welcome back to the Wrestling Roundtable, and for this half of the show, we're going to compare the big 3 of today versus the previous big 3s. Of course, today we're referring to WWE, TNA, and Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
That's what we're used to now. 10 years ago, we had WWF, WCW, ECW, and 10 years before that, I'm lumping WWF in there just for the hell of it, NWA and AWA. Now, how do you think it compares today compared to 10 years ago? What's the wrestling landscape like in the big 3?
Yes, Nick.
Well, I think now WWE is just a mothership of wrestling. I think
Unquestionably.
TNA, yeah, unquestionably. Back then, you actually had people who actually, I guess more Eric Bischoff than Heyman, really trying, literally trying to put Vince McMahon out of business. Now, people are afraid to go for that because they feel to be overcome by the monster. I think TNA can't compete because I think they're trying to compare more than compete with WWE.
Compare more than compete. That's,
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I think that they're trying to almost like how Nitro did towards their latter years.
Oh, right.
Let's do what they
like
do.
they had the big screens, having
The
Booker like
Nitro.
Yeah, I mean, right
and the
now,
racy storylines.
In the past couple months on 24/7, we've seen a lot of clips from WCW in about 2000, and it's astonishing how much like WWF this stuff is.
Yeah.
They're doing weddings and TLC ladder matches and the screens and blah blah blah. It's pathetic compared to where Nitro started.
Exactly.
When you watch Monday Night Wars, it's a completely different show. It's Nitro and Raw are so different, and they felt different at the time. And that's why when somebody jumped ship, you really were like, it was weird because you were like, wow, I'm seeing that guy on that show. It took a while to process. It was like a paradox.
But now, when a WWE superstar jumps to TNA,
Yeah.
not only is it not going to be a surprise.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise.
Oh, really? Surprise,
Yeah, it's not a surprise.
Like if Van Damme showed up in
And-
TNA, who really would give a shit?
Yeah,
about
no one
the
would
first
care.
hour?
What they would do, they act like it's the hugest thing in the world because they're automatically, like they did with Christian, they'll push him,
Hogan was on TNA
push him,
for a moment.
push
Nobody
him.
gave a fuck, you know?
Well, when you compare now versus 10 years ago, like we did,
Right.
it was a lot closer between WCW and WWF than it is between TNA and WWE.
There's a huge gap.
Yeah,
Right.
there is.
There's a
They don't
huge
even exist
gap.
in the same
TNA is
universe.
not even that ECW.
Can I honestly? I really think that in their minds,
popularity, I
in
don't
their
think
minds,
so.
the big three is the three brands. I don't even, and that's what they want. And God bless them for trying that because it's a noble endeavor to say, you know what, we are wrestling, we know it. I have no competition. I'm just going to try and split the company. But by not making them three different entities that he owned, controlled and operated by different creative people that don't
Distinct.
that distinguish amongst themselves and do their own thing. He just made three different little mini WWE.
Well, there's really,
Exactly.
Raw,
Because
Blue
you
Raw, and Shitty Raw.
Yes.
Well, there's
Shitty
SmackDown and
Raw
SmackDown and a
Shitty
half now.
Yeah, SmackDown and half SmackDown.
Yeah.
Well, do you think it's better for wrestling now, or was it?
No, because
Oh, sorry.
competition brings out the best in people, and it brought the best WWE, brought the best at TNT, because they're always keeping each other on their toes. Now, without competition for WWE, they can do what they want.
And,
they don't have to push stars.
They-
They don't have competition.
With all due respect to Ring of Honor, that's not even on the radar. They can go, well, let's sign that guy for developmental, like
Yeah.
Colt Cabana or something.
It's
And
not
then they
like-
get rid of developmental.
Yeah, it's not like
so it doesn't matter.
how ECW was, back in King of the Ring '95 in Philly, when people were chanting ECW, and
It's a
and it
minor
started,
red flag.
getting into people's minds.
It's no
now.
ECW was the
No.
alternative. There is no alternative now. There's
There's
nowhere
no
else to go.
All right.
You watch. Go ahead.
Now that you've brought up ECW, being that you guys especially were huge ECW fans,
Yeah,
Well, before we
yeah,
go,
we
we'll all
watch it.
concede that there is no real big three. There's the big one, and then two
The
other
big
ones
one.
that are just an indie,
And the
then-
little
and then a
engine
TV.
that's really trying to catch
But
up.
ECW.
We're talking about now.
Yeah.
We're talking about now.
Now,
what do you guys make of this idea that they're putting forth these ex-ECW guys, like in the DVD, that, well, ECW, it was really close to being number 2 back in like 98, 2000. What, are they fucking kidding?
regional.
As
No.
much as they joke about it, they all drank that Kool-Aid. They
Right.
truly, honestly, like if you were to lie detector them, they passed. They believe
Except
how
for
good
Taz.
they were.
But
Yeah.
they're not even, when they did finally
Taz
make it,
alone.
when they did finally make it to cable, they were barely.
That was the downfall for them.
Why was that?
They seem to have gotten away from
I know.
breaking the rules.
Um,
They got a little more commercial. Then those big stars, they left them, and then people like you hate, like Steve Carino, started taking over, and Cyrus the Virus and TNN. They put themselves down
Partly,
basically.
but I think it's two parts. One, they did not have the talent that they had previously. And two, and I think more importantly, they did what TNA did when they got TV. ECW is more like TNA than it is like any other companies. They decided, we're just going to rip on the WWF. We're going to take the time that we have.
That was their MO
precious
long before
fucking
TNA,
No,
though.
but
That
that
was
wasn't, people
before
watched
hardcore
it
TV.
because it was exciting. I mean, the other stuff was cool too, but people liked the tables and
It was
the interesting
icing on the
characters.
cake, yeah.
but no, I think the icing on the cake was them ripping on WWF and
That's what I'm
WCW.
saying.
But it wasn't necessary.
Every other
It-
sentence,
it
Joey
was
Styles
part of their
said, "We won't see
personality.
this on Monday night."
Yeah, but I don't think that,
Yeah.
I was a big ECW fan going back to like '95. I didn't give. I mean, it was cool to be like I'm part of the revolution. But fuck the revolution. I like the show. I like the characters. I like
Yeah, like
Shane
the show,
Douglas and
Ray
Sam
and
Taz
and
smoking a
everything.
cigarette and stuff like that.
It was something different.
So the
That's
reason
what we lack now.
that they well, I compare it to TNA is because they made it apparent that they're Bush League. And anybody who's watched recently on 24/7, they put up the first ECW on TNN,
Yeah.
which was they did such a horrible job at their house show that they taped for that. They had to fucking do a clip show where it was like, look, it's Mick Foley. He never won the title here, and it's like.
I think what improved, ECW was
Kicks.
great on a smaller scale, when they did the hardcore TVs. And, they were able to do stuff, showing at 2 in the morning that they can't now, 8 o'clock on a Friday night. It just basically proved that they couldn't handle going on a greater scale, going on national
American
TV,
Music Awards
and
is
abiding,
better than the Grammy.
It was just
and,
cool thing to watch.
abiding by their rules. You know, it just.
Well, speaking of getting to a bigger stage, a lot of Ring of Honor fans are very wary of Ring of Honor getting a television deal. They have this idea in their mind that it's going to get changed and not be what it is, like they love it right now. But do you think that television is a secret ingredient that Ring of Honor might be missing out on?
I think it could help them get a bigger audience.
In other words, it couldn't hurt.
It couldn't hurt.
Mhm.
You know, as long as, because TV, you know, there's a lot of things that come with a TV deal. It's not that, all right, now there's cameras and it's publicized. You got standards, you got advertisers that all you have to worry about that, you know, that all has to do with the storylines too.
They live on their DVDs and shit. You know, they're about, we make a show, we sell it to people, and we sell it all over the world. So if they
Shouldn't that be enough for them?
right, and they can do more with that without having TV. TV could fuck that up. They're like the wrestling infomercial.
But they keep talking
They
about
can put any fucking shit out there. People buy
we're,
DVD.
we're on pay-per-view to expand our audience and this
But
and that.
it also depends how far do they want to go. How if they really want to be considered a number three,
They're
a
also-
legitimate number three, a TV deal.
You know what it is? It's like, you know,
No, I'm not talking
and this
about
is
the
a
on-demand
metaphor that I
deal
wrote
I'm
down.
talking about.
They're like, Ring of Honor's like in the movie business almost. They make little movies that they sell to their fucking fans. Whereas WWF's like in the television business and the live kind of business and the movie business. But the WWF doesn't even give a fuck about their DVDs because they don't make any DVDs for like, you know,
Doesn't give a
WCW.
fuck.
No, they do, but they don't even go near what they could do. Especially for fans like, I don't fucking buy their DVDs. And but
I'm
they
still
make
waiting on the
shitty-
Raw 1997
Right,
stuff.
they make shitty DVDs, that's why. Whereas Ring of Honor knows they're about their DVDs. They make movies for people to buy. And nobody gives a fuck if they were on TV because, you know, usually when they make like a Dukes of Hazzard movie, it never does good.
But then on
It's
the
a
other
different
hand,
business,
there's
you know?
lots of people who have never heard of Ring of Honor, and television is like the main thing.
Yeah, but they
could
might
we-
not buy the DVD because they get to see it on TV every week.
Well, they might buy a ticket to see the
I
show.
think too.
But it would be,
I
I
think
think
Well,
they
I
run
only
out
said
of
the one
fucking,
ticket he gave me.
they run
I
out of
think
an
we've
armpit
been
in
trained-
like, you know, fucking Pennsylvania.
I think as wrestling
That
fans,
seats
most
200
wrestling fans
people.
have been trained to look for wrestling on TV.
Yeah, but dude.
especially after the Monday Night
Dude,
Wars.
if they see that fucking shit in like the little arenas and shit with like no production, horrible.
Oh, well,
fucking
obviously,
sound,
they're gonna have
people
to
are
adjust.
gonna, they're not gonna fucking watch that show.
They're
and
gonna
it's
have
gonna
to
hurt their
adjust.
DVD
Are you
sales.
saying that's why they didn't watch ECW?
Partly.
Because they didn't. If you
Probably
look at the
partly.
ratings for ECW right now, or back then, it's not as good as
Because it's
TNA
kind of
is
like,
right
it's
now.
kind of like, ew, that looks like shit.
Well, hopefully we don't look like shit, and hopefully you stick around. We're going to go further back in
Watching
time to
close-ups.
the territories, and stick around. We'll be back with more Wrestling Roundtable. Welcome back to the Wrestling Roundtable. We were talking about comparing the big three of today versus the big threes of previous years, and we mainly talked about WWF, WCW, ECW from about 10 years ago, but let's go further back to like the WWF, NWA, AWA sort of years. Now, obviously, those years were the waning days of the territories,
Yeah.
and being that WWE just dropped OVW, which was like one of their last vestiges of
Of a
the
territory.
farm system. Now
Yeah.
they're going to focus on Florida Championship Wrestling. It's kind of sad in a way. That's the one they stuck with for, what, 8 years?
That had that for a long time.
So-
yeah.
God forbid you do more than one thing.
Well,
Again.
that brings to mind the death of the territories. Do you think the death of the territories was their own fault?
Oh, of course, because those promoters were a bunch of pigs, and they were too competitive. Like, most people always bring up the point that why couldn't they share more? When you were like in, I don't know, the AWA had its boundary to the south here, and then it was whatever, fucking, you know, world class, and then to the slightly to the east, the border was Florida, and then slightly to the north was Georgia Championship. Why couldn't guys, you know, mix and match more if they were only in their territory? It wouldn't affect the other territory. It would help both territories. The fuck does it matter?
Do you think-
What are you trying to do? And then Vince comes along, he's like, well, fuck this, I'm gonna go everywhere and take all your people.
Yeah.
Well,
Smart, hello.
I'm sure
duh.
we know the big story of Super Clash 3 was bringing world-class AWA and Memphis together in CWA, and
Well,
they
they-
couldn't get along. The whole show was like a fucking
Yeah, they were all
disaster.
trying to steal the talent.
Do you think that's a problem on the indies today? Do you think that, like, there's NWA on some TV somewhere where that appears as their champion, but it's like the shadow of the NWA? NWA's got little indies all over the country, but do you think that if indies work together more, instead of fighting over table scraps left over from the WWE, that they might be able to form something a little akin to the territories of yesteryear?
It has worked in some, regard to Ring of Honor with CZW. They had that feud.
It was very brief.
But why not help each
But
other?
yeah, it's still it got the meme out to.
You mean that was an example?
It's an
in that
example
period?
of them working together for something good.
Wrestling is very
They're gonna be
competitive.
all-
It's very competitive when it comes to
Why does it have to be?
talent against each other. That's just the
They're out to
nature
prove
of it.
they're the best.
That's just
Why?
the nature of it. Why? Because it's not always because a lot
Why
of
can't
times,
TNA and WWF work together with UFC and everybody benefit from it? Brock being in the fucking UFC. That was
It's
awesome. Seeing Undertaker, Austin,
Oh, yeah.
Angle. Nobody was like, you know, ooh, a TNA guy, boo. It was just like cool. We're all Brock's representing wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, there was the MMA versus wrestling fan thing where they were booing Brock, which is also stupid.
But they cheered Austin.
Because, exactly.
Oh, well, that's-
because
yeah,
it's a bunch of
everyone knows
macho
Stone Cold.
fucking bullshit. You know, it's all it is. That's what it goes back to. Cowboy Bill Watts and jerk offs like that, walking around with their chests out, their small dicks, trying to show that they run the show
Well, I mean,
instead of making money.
we were also saying how 10 years ago in the Monday Night War sort of era, the gaps between the big three were a lot closer than they are now, where it's like WWF is TNA.
Yeah.
But back then, it was also the same way when it was more territorial, WWF Northeast and AWA Midwest and NWA in the South, etc.
Let the fans think there's competition, like in the NFL or something, but work together to make fucking money. Because it should be set up the same way.
Like a Bob
Collective
back
bargaining agreement between the owners. Instead of owning teams, you own each territory, and then the workers have their union, and you negotiate with the town.
Well, if you
That's
go
what
back,
they do in the NFL.
if you go back to WWF
Baseball.
sort of footage, like in Madison Square Garden in the 70s, you're going to see Bob Backlund taking on Harley Race for both belts on the line. You're going to see Billy Graham taking on Bill Mascaras, the Mexican legend. You know, this is sort of stuff that we'll never see now.
No,
and those type
yeah.
of belts, like the AWA belt, the NWA belt, they were almost on pretty much on the same even level. Whereas opposed to now, like in WWF, they can't even get all three of their belts on the same level at any point.
It's
So-
all about which promotion looks better. I mean, now they've gotten to the term promotion. They want to promote their guys, their talent. I mean, look what happened with WCW. And with the whole invasion, they did everything they can to bury 99%
Exactly,
of those guys.
and that is the
And it
stupidest
hurts.
period in wrestling
And it-
history.
I own everything.
And it hurt.
You know,
And it hurt.
Come
Carried
on.
over too into years going down. Rob Van Dam getting buried by Triple H. Scott
And
Steiner getting buried by
people
Triple H.
talk
Booker T getting buried by
Triple H
H.
went a whole year.
It was
of
pretty
burying
much
WCW.
Triple H versus WCW.
If
Back in 03, he was.
if
from
WCW
January to
won
December.
and Eric Bischoff was in charge, he would have brought the WF in and probably, in my opinion, done the right fucking thing. And you know which crybaby would have said, no, I'm not. Vince would have been like, I'm not doing it. No, like a fucking baby.
Oh.
Whereas Bischoff says, you know what? I'll come in and I'll work his talent for you.
Well, you know what? Bischoff was making WWF guys look good long before that was even an option.
That's
Yeah.
See NWO. Yeah.
Because he was smart.
He did it before, yeah. And how did that company get big? Because he saw that you could do that. You could make their guys look strong, bring them in. It looks like you got something going. People actually thought
And it
that
makes the
WWF
fans,
was working with
it makes the
WCW.
fans get
And
behind
they got
your guys
excited.
even more.
Well, let's look at an example like Japan, where they've had inter-promotional matches forever between All Japan, New Japan. Do you think the American wrestling should follow a similar model of maybe working a little closer together? But I guess that's never going to happen in our lifetime.
No, I don't
No,
think-
if anybody should be working together, it'd probably be TNA
And everyone else.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much everybody gang up on WWE. It's the only way you're going to.
But then
Get on the
again,
radar.
history
People,
history shows.
egos,
It's going to be a mess.
History shows that didn't happen the first time in the 80s when McMahon was coming into the different territories.
Gagne was like, no!
Yeah.
When they're going under, they tried doing something
well, yeah,
at
that's
Super
too
Clash.
little
And then
too late,
you
the
know.
Super Clash was the egos that
Yeah.
Look
were.
at that little rat, the ship is sinking and he's trying to jump on. Don't let him on.
But I mean,
Well, he can be in our Hall of Fame.
do you think it's a lot worse for wrestling as a whole now not to have those territories? Because we talk about different territories in Florida with the Grahams, and AWA in Minnesota, in
horrible.
California.
It
and
is
it's
hard, and I
horrible.
think it hurts the wrestlers too.
Right.
Because now there can't be a certain territory where one wrestler can make a really big name for himself,
I mean,
and another wrestler can make.
I could live with the WWE being the only big one, and then there being a bunch of territories that work with them to hone talent, because that would be very similar to how professional sports works.
It would also-
Nobody hates the NFL and goes, I'm for the. I mean, Vince thought there was going to be the XFL was going to compete. Fuck you.
No,
That's what he
it was-
really thought deep down. Eventually, give me a
See,
break.
he listened to
Stupid.
both of us.
Look at me. I got.
It
But
could
I mean,
help their home,
But
their
they should,
developmental
but
as
that's
well.
like Major League Baseball. Nobody there's no other baseball league against Major League Baseball. You have Major League Baseball, then teams that develop
Farm
talent
system.
in farm system, and they come up and then they compete. That's how they should run their model now, because they don't have a choice since there's nobody to compete with.
Well,
them.
every time they've set up an artificial model, like the brand split,
Yeah.
which was supposed to be
It's
WWE,
artificial.
Think about how much better it would be
a
if-
territory system with HWA, etc.
Right.
Every time they set it up themselves,
Independent owners
Yeah.
run each baseball team. And then there's the commissioner, like Vince is the CEO. You could have different people running each thing without anybody interfering. They'll draw money. Vince is the one who's pocketing all of it at the end of the fucking day. Everybody wins. The fans win. The wrestlers win. If the guy doesn't go over, he goes somewhere else. He comes up on the big show, Raw, and et cetera, et cetera. It's much more of a logical model than, and it may require, like I said, a union, collective bargaining agreements, and things of this nature with the talent to keep them happy. But God forbid, and that's the problem. It's all about the big fucking chest with the small cock. It's not. It's not about
they
making
could work.
money.
Just think about this. Just think about, if they were going to bring in, let's say, Bryan Danielson, all right, for a match against, I don't know, whoever, MVP at WrestleMania. They don't have to, maybe a lot of people don't know who Danielson is, but show video packages, show Ring of Honor footage. So that way when WrestleMania comes around, people are going to get behind this guy.
Exactly.
I think, well, if they traded time more between the promotions,
traded. You're saying not signed all.
no, that's I mean traded.
Like they used to do with ECW, like send Al Snow. They used to do
Exactly.
something like
I think that if they did that more,
Flash Funk.
it would be a
send him
whole
down.
nother wrestling. Whole nother wrestling.
Well, next week it's going to be a whole other show. So I think we had a good discussion tonight. Hopefully it made you think. And hopefully you tune in next week to think some more. We're going to be talking about racism in wrestling and also the most significant events in wrestling history. So for the panel, Lawrence Haber, Chris Harris, Rodney LeConte, Brett Simonello. I'm your host, Eric Santa Maria. Thanks for watching and join us next week.